My name is Michael. I'm 46 years old, and for the last 9 years, I've lived in the kind of suburb that sells you peace as long as you don't look too closely. Boulder, Colorado. House-lined streets with names like Whispering Pines and Autumn Crest. Every lawn precisely edged. Every welcome mat faded from the same sun. I moved into Lauren's house back when Kaylee was 9. She called it her house, even though it was my name on the lease, my pay stubs backing the mortgage application. Even then, the line was there, faint but unmistakable. I was invited in, but not folded into the fabric. Not really. We met through mutual friends. Lauren had this quiet strength about her, a kind of weary beauty that came from too many years doing everything alone. Divorced young, she said. No child support, no co-parenting, just her and Kaylee, figuring it out day by day. I admired that, thought I could help, thought I could build something. The day I moved in, I carried 3 boxes into the house and found there was nowhere to put them. The closets were full. The drawers were claimed. My side of the bed had space, but just barely. And I told myself that was love, making room where there was none. For the first couple years, it felt possible. Kaylee was curious, observant, even sweet in her way. She liked the breakfasts I made. She'd wait by the window when I worked late. Once, when I picked her up from school early for a dentist appointment, she held my hand the whole walk back to the car. A child's trust. Something fragile but real. I carried that moment for years. I never called myself her father. Not once. And I never asked her to call me anything special. Titles felt performative. I figured presence spoke louder. I did the things that fathers do without fanfare, without demand. I showed up. That was supposed to be enough. Birthdays. I never missed one. Every cake from scratch. Not box mix. Not store-bought. Real ingredients. I taught myself to frost with a palette knife, to smooth the edges just right so her name looked like it mattered. When she needed braces, it was my insurance that covered it. Not because I was asked, because I offered. Because I saw a problem and solved it. Because she deserved it. When her hamster died, I dug a hole in the frozen yard and buried it with her. Even though the ground fought back like it wanted to keep that sadness visible. I learned her favorite cereal. Memorized her allergies. Attended parent-teacher conferences even when I had to rearrange meetings to do it. I signed every permission slip, paid every camp deposit, filled every gas tank. Quietly, steadily, I became the scaffolding of her life. And for a while, I believed that scaffolding would be seen. Not praised, maybe, but noticed, felt. But things changed. Slowly, like rust. Started around 12. Small things. She stopped sitting next to me on the couch. Stopped calling me when she got home. When I asked how her day was, the answers got shorter. One-word replies, eyes on her phone, earbuds in. By 13, she rolled her eyes when I spoke. By 14, she didn't speak unless she had to. I became a shadow in my own house, a quiet presence that money passed through. Groceries filled the fridge. The car stayed fueled. The bills stayed paid. But my name, my voice, my existence, those didn't matter. At 15, she stopped using my number for school contacts. Changed it back to Lauren's. Said it was easier. More accurate. I found out when a teacher emailed to say Kaylee had missed 2 assignments. I hadn't known. I wasn't on the list anymore. Lauren shrugged. She's asserting independence, she said. At 16, Kaylee got her driver's license. She never told me. I found out when she pulled into the driveway and tossed the keys on the table like it was nothing. The insurance increase hit my inbox that same week. No thank you. No, I passed. No acknowledgement. Just the bill. And still I told myself it's a phase. Teens do this. They push. They pull. They come back. Respect comes slow. Let it breathe. But it didn't come. Not respect. Not recognition. Not a glance. What came was silence. Worse than silence, obligation. I became the thing that paid. Not a person. A resource. If she needed clothes, she texted Lauren and Lauren texted me. If she needed tuition help, Lauren forwarded the request. I didn't exist in her eyes, just my signature did. She got into her first choice college. I found out when the acceptance letter came in the mail. She hadn't told me. Didn't look up when Lauren read it aloud at dinner. I said, "That's a big deal. Congratulations." She nodded. No smile. No thanks. I thought maybe she's overwhelmed. Maybe the moment's too big. But then came the paperwork. The FAFSA. The meal plans. The housing deposits. Everything sent to me. My income. My assets. My tax returns. Suddenly I mattered again. Not as a parent. As a guarantor. That was the word they used on the forms. Guarantor. Not stepfather. Not guardian. Not even emergency contact. Just the man whose credit could make her dreams come true. Lauren handed me the forms with that same half apology she always wore when things got uncomfortable. Said, "We'll pay you back. Eventually." But we both knew what that meant. I filled them out. Not because I was asked. Because I didn't want to be the reason Kaylee couldn't go. Because I believed still that love meant building something, even when no one saw you do it. But I was getting tired. Bone tired. The kind that no vacation fixes. There's a kind of loneliness that sneaks up on you when you live in a house full of people who've decided you're unnecessary. It doesn't come all at once. It arrives in pieces. When your birthday passes and no one remembers. When you make dinner and no one thanks you. When you speak and no one answers. That's the loneliness I lived in. I started noticing the things I used to ignore. The way Lauren laughed louder at Kaylee's jokes than mine. The way she said "we" when talking about decisions but never included me in those conversations. The way she said "my daughter," never "our family." And when I brought it up carefully, cautiously, she deflected. "Don't take it personally," she said. "She's just a teenager. She doesn't mean it. She'll grow out of it." But Lauren never asked Kaylee to try. Never demanded kindness. Never modeled respect. She just smoothed the surface, kept the peace, told me to give it time. And all the while, time was taking me further and further out of the picture. At dinner, Kaylee sat across from me, scrolling her phone. When I asked her to put it away, she didn't even blink. Just said, "Why? You're not my dad." She'd said it before, in different ways, with different tones. But that one stuck. Because Lauren didn't flinch, didn't say a word. I looked at her, waiting. She looked down at her plate. And in that second, something in me cracked. Not with rage, with clarity. Because you can only be erased so many times before you stop trying to leave fingerprints. I stared at my half-eaten food, at the table I paid for, in the house I maintained, across from the child I'd helped raise, beside the woman who had quietly allowed me to become invisible. And I thought, maybe this is the closest thing to family I'll ever be allowed. A shadow, a wallet, a man-shaped utility. There was no explosion, no yelling, no dramatic breaking point, just dinner. It was a Tuesday, April, I think. Cool enough to keep the windows shut, warm enough to forget the furnace. I had grilled chicken on the stove, burnt the edges a little, the way Kaylee said she liked it when she was 11. I still cooked that way, even though she never commented anymore. Never even looked at the plate. She just ate like it was a transaction. Calories in, words out sometimes, but never toward me. I set the table myself. 3 plates, salad bowl in the center. Lauren brought wine. Kaylee brought nothing but silence. She had earbuds in until the food was ready, pulled one out, left the other in. Her phone sat beside the napkin, face up, glowing. She never turned it over. We ate like strangers, me chewing slowly, pretending to savor the work I'd done. Lauren pushing food around like she was buying time. Kaylee scrolling between bites. I tried to make conversation soft pitches. Asked how her classes were going. Which colleges she was leaning toward. Whether the dorm tours were helpful. She didn't answer the first 2. Just shrugged at the third. "It's whatever. I'll figure it out." Lauren didn't look up. I let it go. Ate in silence. That night had no warning signs. No sharp turn. It slid off the cliff so quietly I didn't feel the drop until it was over. Halfway through dinner, in the middle of a bite, Kaylee spoke. Calm. Casual. Deadly. She didn't look at me. She looked at her phone. And she said, "He means nothing to us. He's just a sponsor." Not angry, not cruel, just flat, like reading a sentence out loud. Something she'd thought before, maybe said before, just not in front of me. Not until now. The fork slipped from my hand, hit the plate with a sharp clang. I didn't say anything. I looked at her. She didn't flinch, didn't even glance up. She just scrolled, like the sentence had been a breeze she barely noticed passing through the room. I turned to Lauren. I needed her to say something. Anything. Even a soft reprimand. Even just my name. But she froze. Eyes fixed on the salad. Hands clasped around the stem of her wine glass. She didn't open her mouth. She didn't defend me. She didn't deny it. And that silence hit harder than Kaylee's words ever could. Told me everything. Told me she'd heard it before. That maybe she agreed. That maybe, on some level, this is how she had always seen me too. A sponsor. Not a partner. Not a parent. Not a pillar. Just a man with a steady hand and a reliable paycheck. A man you let believe he belongs so long as he pays for the privilege. I felt something go quiet inside me. Not rage. Not grief. Just empty. I picked up my fork. Took one last bite. Chewed slowly. Finished my glass of water. Neither of them said another word. When dinner ended, Kaylee left her plate on the table and walked upstairs without a glance. Lauren cleared her throat once. Tried to say my name. But the word died in her mouth. She stood up, collected the plates, took them to the sink. And that was it. No apology. No correction. No defense. I went to the den, sat down, opened my laptop, and I did exactly what Kaylee had said. Exactly what her sentence demanded. I became what she claimed I was. A sponsor. And I pulled the plug. First, the education portal. I removed myself as financial guarantor. The tuition account? Locked. The housing deposit? Reversed. The meal plan autodraft? Cancelled. The credit card linked to her bookstore account? Closed. Permanently. Took less than an hour. Then the health insurance. I drafted the form, removed her as a dependent. Signed it digitally. Sent it through HR. Done. Next, the 529 plan I had started quietly 3 years ago, when Lauren had mentioned in passing that Kaylee would need help affording out-of-state tuition. I had contributed quietly, never asked for thanks. I emptied it, transferred the funds into my personal IRA. I had kept it separate, just in case. This was just in case. I stared at the screen for a long time after the last confirmation email came through. No emotion, no satisfaction. Just a hollow kind of steadiness. I didn't tell Lauren. Didn't go upstairs. Didn't slam doors. I brushed my teeth. Turned off the lights. Went to bed. She came in later. Slipped between the sheets like nothing had happened. Turned away from me. Didn't touch me. Didn't speak. Didn't ask. Maybe she already knew. Maybe she didn't care to know. The next morning I made coffee. Ate my toast alone. Left before either of them came downstairs. When I got to the office, I sent one more email to the university's financial aid office. Brief, professional, emotionless. Please be advised I am no longer the financial sponsor for Kaylee M. Wadsworth. I have withdrawn all commitments. I will not be responsible for any outstanding balances. No explanation. No negotiation. Just truth. That afternoon, the phone rang. Kaylee's number. I didn't answer. Then Lauren. Then Kaylee again. I let them ring. No voicemails. Just silence on the line. A silence I had once feared. Now it felt like freedom. I changed my bank passwords. My credit alerts. Removed Kaylee from every emergency contact list. Erased the paper trail of fatherhood that had never truly belonged to me. And when I got home that night, the house was quiet. Dinner was cold on the table. Lauren sat on the couch, pale, waiting. She started to speak. I held up a hand. Don't, I said. That was the first word I spoke to her in 2 days. She stared at me like I was a stranger. And maybe, finally, I was. The house changed after that. Not all at once. It didn't collapse. It just got quieter in the wrong places. Doors didn't slam. Voices didn't rise. It was the quiet of people trying not to say the wrong thing. Not out of remorse, out of self-preservation. I had removed myself from the equation, and now they were solving for the absence. The air felt different. Lauren tiptoed around the rooms like she didn't want to disturb the tension she'd helped create. Every time she passed me, she seemed like she wanted to speak. But what could she say? She had been there. She had heard it. She had done nothing. She had let it happen. She had let her daughter call me nothing, and she had agreed. Not with words, but with silence, and silence is the loudest betrayal of all. I made my coffee in the mornings, ate alone, left for work, came home, slept on the edge of the bed. She didn't ask where I'd gone. She didn't ask what I was doing. Maybe she was afraid to hear the answer. Maybe she already knew. The calls started on the third day. First came an official-looking envelope from the university, sealed with institutional pride, postmarked and stamped. It arrived in the mailbox and I left it there. I knew what it was before Lauren brought it in. She opened it at the kitchen counter. I watched from the hallway, unseen. Her eyes scanned the page. Her lips moved, and then her shoulders dropped. I could see it in her face, the realization, not just of what had happened, but what it meant. She looked at the amount due like it was written in a foreign language. Like she didn't know what those numbers meant. But I did. I'd been carrying them for years. She clutched the paper, walked up the stairs. Her footsteps slow, heavy. The next morning, my phone buzzed during a meeting. Kaylee. No message. Just a missed call. I stared at the name on the screen longer than I should have. Not because I wanted to answer, I didn't. But because I remembered when I used to get texts that said things like, "Can you pick me up? I forgot my lunch. Thank you." That was years ago. That girl didn't exist anymore. I let the call go. 15 minutes later, another one. Then again that night. Then Lauren texted. She's panicking. Tuition is due this week. She doesn't know what to do. I didn't reply. It wasn't pettiness. It wasn't revenge. It was recognition. They had spoken. I had listened. They had drawn the boundary. I was simply respecting it. The following morning, I blocked Kaylee's number. Then I logged in and changed every account that had her listed as an authorized user. Every platform I had quietly maintained for her comfort. Spotify, gone. Amazon, closed. Grocery delivery, deleted. She had lived in a house where comfort arrived like magic. Where needs were met before they were voiced. Where the man who didn't matter kept the lights on and the fridge full and the Wi-Fi running. Now the man was gone. She didn't just lose her tuition. She lost the foundation beneath her feet. Lauren tried again that evening. Her voice careful, measured. She set her wine down like she thought it might explode. She didn't mean it, she said. I looked at her. For a long time. She said it. She's a kid. She's 17. She's scared. She's not my daughter. The last one stopped her. She closed her eyes. Exhaled like someone coming up from deep water. Don't do this, she said. I already did. I went upstairs. Closed the door. I didn't sleep well that night. Not because I doubted myself. But because endings are rarely clean, and even clarity feels sharp when you press against it. I remembered the night Kaylee had the flu when she was 11. How she called for me, not her mother. How I stayed up all night, reading to her while she shivered. How she said, "Don't leave." I didn't, until she did. Until she left me first with that sentence at the dinner table. He's just a sponsor. I was just taking her at her word. The next day, the university sent a second notice. This one was digital, a polite but firm reminder of non-payment, with a friendly hyperlink that said, "Reinstate sponsorship now." I clicked the link, stared at it. Then I closed the browser. That night, the doorbell rang. Lauren answered it. I didn't move from the couch, but I heard the voice. Kaylee. She didn't come home often since college started. Maybe once every month. And when she did, it wasn't for me. Now here she was in my doorway. She walked into the living room like a stranger, holding a stack of printed emails and balance sheets. Her hands trembled, not with fear, but with pressure. The kind of panic that comes when the world starts asking you to pay for things you never realized had value. Lauren followed her in, standing just behind, as if her presence would soften the blow. Kaylee stood in front of me, didn't sit, didn't make eye contact. "I got a letter," she said. "They said I'm being withdrawn." I said nothing. "They said the balance is overdue. They said if I don't pay by Friday, I lose my classes." Still, I said nothing. She started to cry then, quietly, just her eyes. The rest of her face stayed still, like she didn't want to give me the satisfaction of seeing her break. "You can't just stop," she said. "You can't just disappear like that." I looked at her, and I said, "You already told me I wasn't here." She blinked. Lauren stepped forward. "Michael, please." She's scared. She didn't mean it. I turned to her. "No, she meant it. And you let her." I stood up, walked past them, grabbed my keys. Kaylee stepped in front of the door. "Wait, please." I didn't know what I was saying. I didn't think. "No," I said. "You didn't." She looked at her mother. Lauren's lips trembled. But she didn't defend me. Not even now. I stepped around them, drove away, parked at the trailhead, sat in my truck for an hour. Listened to the wind hit the windshield like it had something to say. When I got home, they were gone. I didn't ask where, didn't check. I went upstairs, turned off the light, and let the darkness settle in around me like a second skin. I wasn't angry. I wasn't grieving. I was simply finished. Finished pretending this was something it wasn't. Finished paying for my own erasure. The next morning, I opened a new bank account. Transferred the bulk of my savings. Locked it down. I left a fraction in the old account. Just enough for Lauren to pay the last month's rent. I left her a note on the table. I won't be paying for college anymore, or groceries, or cell phones, or streaming services, or car repairs, or copays, or laundry detergent, or your wine, or her silence. You chose her. She chose to erase me. I'm just agreeing. I didn't sign it as Michael. She didn't need that name anymore. That afternoon, she called. I didn't answer. Then the texts came. Then the emails. Each one a little more desperate. But desperation is not the same as remorse. It's just fear of consequence. By the end of the week, they understood what I already knew. A man who is treated like nothing doesn't owe you everything. I didn't abandon them. I simply stopped paying to be abandoned. It didn't take long. 3 days after the note, the first real consequence hit. Kaylee's university access was suspended. Her student portal locked. Emails bounced. Her dorm ID stopped working. She was officially on administrative hold, no classes, no housing, no cafeteria, no transcript. A name on a list of unpaid balances. Lauren texted me a **T. Just the screen. No message. I didn't reply. She tried again the next morning. She's sleeping on a friend's couch. She's humiliated. I read it over coffee, took another sip, put the phone down, because humiliation is different from pain. Humiliation only stings when an audience sees you fall. But pain, real pain, comes when you finally understand that the world does not owe you kindness. And the person you discarded was the only one who ever gave it freely. The next day, she tried calling. I let it ring. I imagined her voice on the other end. Not soft, not apologetic, just urgent. Urgent because the structure had collapsed. Because the safety net was gone. Because the sponsor had withdrawn. But this wasn't revenge. It wasn't even punishment. It was math. Actions equal outcomes. For years, I was an unspoken line item in their lives. The man who paid. The man who stayed. The man who was good enough to be depended on but never good enough to be claimed. Now they would understand what it meant when a man like that walks away. And not with rage, with finality. 2 more days passed before Lauren knocked on my door. She hadn't been back since the note. Hadn't asked to see me. Now, suddenly, she was on the front steps, eyes swollen, hair unwashed, hands clutching a thick envelope. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. She stood there like someone trying to sell me regret. "She's withdrawn from school," she said. I said nothing. She's back home, sleeping on the couch. Won't eat. She hasn't spoken to anyone. Still I said nothing. She held out the envelope. Her father won't help. He said it's not his problem. That she made her bed. I took the envelope. Not because I wanted it, because I wanted to see what she thought was worth handing over. Inside were letters, printed emails, Kaylee's appeal to the university, financial aid rejections, a handwritten note, messy, desperate, addressed to Michael. Not Dad, not stepdad, just Michael. I didn't mean what I said. I was stupid. Please help me. Please. I closed the envelope, handed it back. Lauren's voice cracked. She needs you. No, I said. She needs to learn what she chose. Her lips trembled. She was a child. No, I said again slower. She was 17. She knew what she was doing. And you let her. She looked like she wanted to scream. But even now, she couldn't bring herself to defend her silence. Because silence doesn't age well. It rots. It spreads. And now it had consumed her too. She's suffering, she whispered. So did I said. Her face changed, like I had struck her. But I hadn't raised my hand. I had only raised the mirror. She cries every night, she said. So did I said again. Her shoulders slumped. And in that moment, I realized she wasn't here for Kaylee. She was here because the system she had built, the one where I provided and stayed quiet, had broken. I was the invisible beam in the center of the house. And now that I had removed myself, the walls were splitting. She reached for my hand. I didn't move. I didn't know how bad it had gotten, she said. You were in the room. I didn't think it meant anything. But it did, I said. And you said nothing. She dropped her hand, swallowed whatever apology she had been building. And then she left, just turned and walked away. Back to the house where the fridge was half empty and the tuition bills sat unopened. I didn't watch her go. I just closed the door. The days that followed were quieter than they should have been. No more calls. No more texts. I think they understood that the line had gone dead. And not by accident. By design. I was no longer the man in the background, quietly carrying weight no one acknowledged. I was gone. Not in body. In bond. 2 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. From Kaylee. Handwritten. 8 pages. I read every word. She said she was sorry. Said she had taken everything for granted. Said she didn't understand what I had done for her until it was gone. She listed every sacrifice she remembered. Every trip. Every check. Every gesture. She wrote about the time I drove her 6 hours for a college tour she barely thanked me for. The time I fixed her car in the snow. The time I stayed up all night with her when she had the flu. She said she was wrong. Said I didn't deserve what she said. Said she wanted to fix it. The last page asked if we could talk. If I would give her a chance. If we could go back. I folded the letter. Put it in a drawer. I didn't respond. Because this wasn't about apology. This was about understanding. And understanding comes with time. With loss. With cost. If I responded now, it would teach her that words could undo actions. That regret erases impact. That a letter could wash away years. And it can't. I needed her to feel it. To live in it. To sit in the space where I used to be. And realize how much room I took up silently. I don't know if she'll ever truly understand. I don't know if she'll try again. And I'm not waiting to find out. Because my life, finally, is mine again. No longer tethered to a child who saw me as a function. No longer tied to a woman who used my presence but refused to defend it. I work. I come home. I cook for one. And for the first time in nearly a decade, that feels like peace. There are nights when I hear echoes. Her laugh in the hall, Lauren's voice calling from the kitchen, and they twist something deep in my chest. But it fades. It always fades. And in that silence, I breathe again. Because love without respect is a cage. And I have lived too long behind bars made of my own kindness. So I end this with one question. Not for Kaylee. Not for Lauren. For you. Was I wrong? Was I wrong to stop being a man they only needed when things broke? Was I cruel to demand dignity? To enforce consequence? Or was this the only way to finally be seen by disappearing? Would you have stayed? Or would you have walked like I did, with no fire, just the quiet clarity of someone who finally understood? You can't save people who don't see you. So tell me, would you have endured it? Or would you have left too?